Welcome back to the Customer Success Festival APAC Reloaded. I hope you enjoyed the event so far. Again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all speakers, attendees, and partners. If you do like our content, please head over to customersuccesscollective.com and check out our membership plan. With the CSC membership, you'll be able to have full access to on-demand videos, templates, framework, exclusive articles, and also rewatch all the presentation videos of this event. Now it's time, sit back and enjoy the next session. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, maybe, if you're in Australia. Welcome back to the Customer Success Festival APAC 2022. I would like to start by a round of applause for everyone who's still here with us, because I know that was the last session of these two-day events, and it is my pleasure, my honor to present you the next speaker, Kushana, and he will share his experience and a session on value-based conversation for customer growth. How are you doing today, Krisha?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Ren. Thanks for checking in.
No worries. The stage is yours now. Please take it from here.
Sure. So I'll start with saying hello to everyone. And I know there has been 2 days of conference, a lot of learnings, and obviously a lot of questions, a lot of things to grasp. This is the last session, if I'm not wrong. And I wanted to keep it simple. The topic for today is value-based conversation for customer growth. How what you speak to the customer or what language you talk to them about is going to impact the customer growth efforts and initiatives that you're taking. It's a simple topic. A lot of content, which you will hear in the next 30 minutes. You might feel that, okay, this is something I already do, but it's more about rephrasing everything, and it's more about reiterating, why and how this is important. Right. So we'll begin our session with a quick introduction, and then we'll dive deep into what is value-based conversation, why it makes sense, and how you can empower yourself to deliver that. Right. And we'll try to end the conversation with some of the examples and success stories we have. All right. So to begin with, currently I'm managing the onboarding and task team at Aptio, and I have some associations with SaaS Insider, which is a community, and then Pre-Flight, which is again an onboarding-led community sponsored by Rocket Lane. Before Aptio, I was working as director of customer success at Alma Base, and obviously before that was a senior customer success manager. Overall, I have 10 years of experience leading a lot of initiatives and projects for customer success teams and domains across the industry. Right. Move over. Let's talk a little bit about the topic for today, which is what this value-based conversation. Right. This is as simple as you talking about what benefits your product or service has been able to deliver to the customer, and not just what the product has done. Okay, I've given a very simple example here. A customer success software that flagged 15 alerts of at-risk customer, and the team was able to take care of all of them, is one statement you can tell your client. And on the other side, if you say that our CS software helped you save 15 high-risk customers worth $50,000 by sending out alerts to the team on time. So the difference here is, in one, you are talking about the action, and on the other side, you're talking about the impact. Right? Impact is what resonates to the customer. Unless we are able to communicate in our conversation what impact our tools, our software, or service which we offer has been able to create in their day-to-day, in the outcome which they were trying to achieve, you will not necessarily get the desired value exchange happening between the customer and your organization. It's a statement saying success is when the perceived value is derived by a customer. Now here, perceived word is very important, because it's all about what your customer thinks of what you can help with as a CSM, as a product, as a service which you offer. Right? And what they think depends a lot on how you are able to carry those conversations which you're having with them. Moving over to the next slide. Uh, why this is important? Now, first of all, value component in your conversation, like what impact this your product and service has been able to create, is actually all about talking to the customer in their own language. So if the problem for a customer is there are a lot of customers which are canceling their subscription, talking to them about how your product has helped them overcome that challenge or have helped them reduce the percentage of customers canceling the subscription is what we are talking about here, and not just in the process what all your product has done. Right, that's important. Having a conversation about what all your product has done is important, but at the same time it should come down to you being able to communicate that this is the impact the product has been able to create. Right. It also helps you uh, like relate the vision the sponsor or the decision maker or the executive team on the customer side had at the time of buying the software. So at that level, they don't really care about what all your product or service can do, but they care about how this product and service has been able to make an impact in their organization, be it regarding productivity, saving time, and whatnot. The reasons can be different, but then the idea is being able to communicate the outcome. It also, when you start practicing more value based conversation, it helps you focus on the benefits and not so much on the results. Right, like the example which we saw, in that result was there were a number of alerts sent, but the benefit was obviously being able to save $50,000. So this is different we are talking about here. It also adds relevance. The conversation adds relevance to what you're talking about. And the last one, which is it gets you the competitive advantage. Now, a lot of times you'll see CS leaders and people who have spent a lot of time in this industry talks about, hey, it's difficult to compete with X company on features. It's difficult to compare with Y company on the services they offer. But if you are talking about the impact or the benefit or the value proposition which you were able to deliver, chances are that you will never have to get in those conversations where you're talking about what feature your product has or what your services offering is all about, rather how much impact you were able to create. Right, feature based conversation is something which is important during the course of time when you need to talk to them about what all we can do as a product. But that's at a different level. Usually those conversations make sense when you are into the onboarding stage and we are just trying to train the customer on and just trying to just help them with the deeper understanding of what all you have to offer as a part of your product or service. That's more knowledge oriented. But what we are talking about here is, and I'm saying that that's important too, but what we need to do is we should be able to correlate those feature based conversation to the value which is being delivered by using those features. So it should not be, hey, you press this button and an email will go out. It should be like, hey, if you press this button, a marketing email will go out to all the members you have in the team, and they can review the email and then send it across. Right. Let's move over on how can we empower our team to have more such conversation. What sort of things we need to do to be prepared ourselves for those conversation. And I think one word which is absolutely important in this, it's non-negotiable when you are trying to sort of learn how to have more value-based conversation, is research. You should know about the customer, you should know about the industry they are in, you should know about the persona, the role the customer or the POC is playing in the organization. And last but not the least, you are talking to a human, so you should know the person also. Right, when I say you should know what kind of language they understand, how tech savvy they are. You should know what is their vision, or what is it that your product or service is offering that is relevant in the conversation. Right, so for example, let's say there's a CRM which is being used by operations team, which is being used by sales team as well as customer success team. Right, people or the users in these three different teams have different outcomes to achieve from the same software. You can't just go and tell them that, hey, I mean, our software helps you reduce churn. Probably this is not a problem sales team is trying to solve, right? So this is where the research comes in. You should know what type of role the person is in, and obviously that will help you, have that relevant discussion. Going back, obviously understanding the customer, what type of business they are, what is the industry they are into. Similarly, having an industry sort of knowledge is going to help you get that perspective of what kind of challenges they might be facing, and then talk to them about. I'll give you one small example here. There was one customer who basically was in dormant stage. We tried a lot of emails and calls, and we didn't got any response from them. While doing the research, we figured out that the person which we are trying to reach is responsible for fundraising side of things in the organization she was into, right? The reason this information was critical is because now we know that if we are sending an email about our product, which can help her perceive some value on the fundraising side of it, the chances are that email will resonate. And that's exactly what happened. We sent an email talking to her about how our product or software, which we were, which I was working for the organization at that point in time, how that product can help them with the fundraising side of things. And within a day, we got a response. So this is what we're talking about: being relevant in the conversation, being able to communicate what makes sense to that user, right? It also it helps you talk about the impact it has been able to create. Like, for example, uh, it's not just about how this tool can help you plan your calendar. It's also about how this tool can help you reduce the extra time or the non-focus sort of time which you have on your schedule, right? So that's what differentiate between what you are trying to communicate and the competition is trying to do, right? At this, you should also, if let's say if the customer which you are trying to sort of work into is not something which is with you from the beginning, or you came in after the onboarding stage, came into the picture after the onboarding stage, you should go back and try to understand one aspect which is absolutely important, and that is what was the reason they opted your products and service, and what was the reason, or what was the aspect where the competition or the previous vendor didn't do a good job at, so that they made a mind and they move. First of all, that will help you make sure that you are not doing the same mistake the other organization did, and at the same time you clearly know what sort of expectation they are into, and whatever conversation you are going to create or you're going to have with them over the course of time, you can sort of take it back and relate it to the reason why they chose the product and service, so that there's a validation of value is something which we'll talk about in a later slide, but that's what the conversation we're talking about. This will come with practice. I'm not saying that you read the slides or you attend this session and you'll be provided value-based conversation. What I would suggest is, before you are trying to have any strategic conversation with the relevant stakeholder from your customer side, prepare yourself, be proactive in doing research, prepare yourself of what are the things you're going to talk about, and practice your conversation. That will help you become better at it. That's the one way which I have followed in the initial time of my career, and that's something which has been super helpful. Going on to what are the touch points where the value-based conversation can happen or can be delivered. This is something which is, in general, what I would say is it's all across. So it starts with sales handoff, like whenever customer success, right, when comes into the picture. It can happen during customer onboarding, when the customer go live is happening, whenever you are doing a QBR, and obviously in the post onboarding engagement. During sales handoff, time and again trying to assess what was the reason why they bought the product and service to begin with, what was the things which were not right with the competition. Those are the areas where you can try to understand the customer, and then obviously formulate your value-based conversation strategies here. During the customer onboarding, it's going to be a lot focused on features and services and deliverables. But at the same time, if you're able to relate your feature-based training or your feature-based conversation to the addition or to the outcome that will lead to, that will help. I'll give you another example here. In one of the product which we were working on, there was a feature where you click on it, it sort of creates two versions of the website. That's the feature we are talking about, creating two versions of the website. On the other side, if I tell the customer that, hey, it will help you create two different versions of the website, which can be published to two different sort of audiences, and you can validate which of the version is good, doing better, that's what you need to tell them, right? So even in the onboarding phase, although it's very feature intensive process, but at the same time, try to focus on how those features can get you to that value. Go live is basically in most cases the first value they see. So it's not just about the value which you were able to create. It's also about how you are able to have those conversation. QBR, make sure that your QBRs are aligned to the value or perceived value which the customer is expecting from the product to be delivered. Talk to them in those languages. Whatever, usually I've seen, in the QBR, we talk about what has went well in the last quarter, what did not went so well. Don't just state facts and numbers there. State what those numbers would mean to the value proposition we are trying to deliver in this partnership, right? And in the posting onboarding engagement, like I said, whenever there's a new point of contact, whenever there's a transition which is happening, just make sure that you know well about the customer, the industry, the persona, the person you're talking to, and then speak to them in the language they understand. We'll go to, okay, this is a customer value journey. Now in this, we'll talk about how you can sort of, for each, and this is going to be subjective for each customer, how you can plan this whole value delivery sort of cycle or journey for the customer. Step one is going to be defining the value. This would probably happen at the very initial stage, especially when the sales handoff is happening, where you're trying to sort of understand what was the reason they bought the product and service for, what is their expectation from the product, and things like that. That's where the definition of value is going to be taking place. Not just define, I would say it's going to be in the best interest of both you and the customer that you document it well, that these are the things which you are going to sort of deliver during the course of time, right? The second stage is obviously deliver those values, making sure that we are trying to put our efforts, initiatives when it comes to implementation, delivery, and whatnot, is aligned to the definition which we have designed or which we have came up with during the define value stage. When the value is starting to get delivered, start having those conversations with the customer, trying to correlate the delivered value and how that impacts the initial conversation we had. How do we need to change the course of action to be able to sort of see if we are going in the right direction or not. Then comes the validation of value by customer. This is another stage where customer comes back to you and say that, hey, we agreed, we wanted to sort of change our conversion percentage from 50% to 75%. And yeah, we saw that, right? This validation of value only happens when you are approaching this whole value delivery problem in a very structured way. Otherwise, it just becomes a step of a process. Just like, I'll give another example here. In one of the organization I was working with, they had onboarding stage and the go live stage. Okay, go live stage usually used to be the one where they are the customers are publishing their website or the alumni platform to the public. Okay, that's definitely a stage where the something major has happened in the journey of customer with that organization. Something major has happened, right? Like they were able to successfully publish the website to the audience they wanted to. But is that the first time they saw the value? That was never the case, right? Let's say before even reaching out to that stage of publishing the site, the organization which I was with helped them do a survey in their alumni community to understand if they have a platform like that, what all they would like to see on that platform. If the organization is helping them get that information, isn't that a value which was delivered? Yes, it was. But if we as a CSM, if we are, or somebody who's managing the onboarding, or basically anyone who's in that position, who's having those conversations with a customer, is not being able to help customer realize that, hey, this is also something which is a value in this entire journey, where you now have at least, let's say, 1000 responses from your community who wants to tell you that this is what they want to see in the platform, right? That's one. At the same time, you have, out of whatever number of emails you send, you have now 1000 people, 1000 community members who expect something like this, something like a platform to sort of come up very soon, right? So it helped you prepare to that stage, final stage, when you want to publish your website. So this is what I'm talking about. At times when you don't have those relevant conversations with the customer, it will just become a stage of a life cycle, which is definitely not the case, right? Once the value has been validated, you need to work with the customer and then see, how the value has been optimized. Is there anything else we can do? If the conversion has gone from 50 to 75, can we make it to 80 and whatnot? So those conversation needs to happen. And then let's say if we have increased the value scope, then again it goes to what's the new value scope, the defined cycle and whatnot, right? Coming to the last sort of slide of the presentation. Here let's just talk about some examples around how in different stages or in different types of your engagement with the customer, this kind of conversation helps. Like for example, impact on onboarding and implementation. I just gave an example where it was just a stage till the time CSM was able to help the customer realize that, okay, what you got, the 1000 responses and the 1000 people who are going to expect that something like this is come, is also a value which is being delivered, which is purely a CSM skill set that he was able to sort of convey that at the right point in time, right? It also helps you sort of create an impact on time to value. Another example here, customer who's trying to launch, unless you sort of define the stages, that it's not just the go live. Even if you're able to do X, Y, Z things on the platform, that's also a value which our product has been able to add. That's what we are talking about when it comes to impact on time to value. Um, Especially covering the topic of impact on renewal and expansion. I've mentioned in a previous part of this conversation that if it gives you a lot of competitive advantage, feature to feature comparison, service to service comparison, there can be a lot of vendors which can over where you do not have that advantage with your customer. But if you are able to convince them that we are able to solve your problem, there are no instances, or there is no scope of how well you can optimize this going forward. If you are able to make them understand that, hey, whatever we spoke about when we started this partnership has been delivered, which is obviously through the value-based conversation, there's no point of them sort of exploring anything else. We have seen in some instances that at times usage of the platform is very high, but there's still customer churn. And usage seems to be one of the key metric I've seen a lot of organization being dependent on when it comes to customer health. Why is that happening? They must have been using the product, but they never knew how this has made an impact, right? Let's say we talk about another example related to CRM itself. A CRM was able to store a lot of data for them. They got a lot of leads from the website, but then all the pieces of information was just sitting on the CRM and there was no actionable insight, right? Let's say if the person who is maybe the CSM on the CRM side comes to me and tell me that, hey, it looks like you have a lot of data. Let me do one thing. Let me and try, first of all, try to understand what is it I want to do. And I tell him that, this data is not as useful for me because I don't have time to look into it. I wish I could see this data in a specific format which consists of different regions and different stages they are in as a contact. If they're able to deliver it to me and then convey it to me that, hey, you wanted this to happen, here is the dashboard where you can see the database on regions and different characteristics which we have been able to capture, and at the same time are being able to communicate that this is what you were looking for and we were able to deliver it to you, the partnership, the conversation starts, and from there is going to be the responsibility of the CSMs to sort of take it forward, right? It also has an impact on adoption experience of the customer, and then obviously success. It's like I said in the very beginning, it's not just it's important to sort of deliver the values, but at the same time it's important to help them realize that, okay, whatever we have done in this partnership, there has been a proposition where we were able to deliver the impact. Another one story here we'll take. It was an interesting one. The customer came, in one of the previous organization, the customer came to us with just one part of the one product in the portfolio. Their assumption was, if we make this successful, we'll opt into other products as well, right? It becomes very critical for me, and I was the CSM who was managing that. It became very critical for me to sort of make sure that not only they realize that the value or the reason why they bought the product has been fulfilled. At the same time, if I want to expand this account, I wanted to sort of make sure that that's happening in a very structured way and as fast as possible. So we started the onboarding with a very specific objective. We sort of defined that these are the things we'll do as a part of onboarding. At the same time, we sort of defined at the go live stage, what is it you want to see on the platform? And let's say 1 year down the line, or maybe 6 months down the line, the question was specifically this: what will you see on the platform 6 months down the line to say that, hey, whatever you have bought this platform for is successful, right? Based on those conversations, we sort of relied on some common minimum program where we sort of discussed that these are the things we need to have at the end of 6 months. We were able to deliver that at the end of 6 months, and then the customer sort of expanded. In fact, in the next 6 months, they actually subscribed to 2 other products, and then they were almost paying the double by the end of first year in the contract, right? I believe that we were able to make this happen only because the approach to this particular onboarding and the customer management was very structured. And at the same time, at all times, the conversation was focused on the value they expect and the value we have been able to deliver. With this, I would take a pause here. This is all I had to share, and we are just in time. So, and yeah, I would love to take any questions if there are any.
Yes, thank you for the whole presentation. It's very insightful. I think people are loving it. And then we got David here put up a question a bit earlier. But I think you might cover some of his point already. So he's wondering, when do you validate the value? Would you like to share a bit more on that?
Right, absolutely. I'll get to this slide where we spoke about validation of value by the customer. And the example I was talking about towards the end, where we had a customer who just bought one product, and we sort of had to deliver the value, not only just deliver the value, but as soon as possible so that we are able to expand them. We had this validation take place right after the first 6 months. So in the conversation, in the very initial conversation which you're going to have with your customer, you need to sort of define some timelines there, that in the next 3 months, this is what we want to see. In the next 6 months, this is what we want to see. Based on what stages and timelines you have discussed, that's when you need to do those validations, right? This is a risk as well, because if you are setting up a timeline, you need to make sure that you should have all hands on deck to deliver that. If you're not able to deliver on time, that's another risk. That's definitely is going to have a negative impact. So before you sort of go into this journey, make sure that you're confident of the deliverables. Make sure that you know what's the expectation and things like that.
Thank you. I hope that answered your questions, David. Thanks, Krishna, for sharing again. Kate, welcome back. So she's wondering, what are the best strategies to open up new markets? She's especially interested in providing support in other languages, reducing barriers in CS.
Right. I'm not sure if this is exactly in the scope of this presentation, but I'll try to answer that. I think I've been part of some initiatives around this as well. Um, what I feel and what I would like to start with to answer this question is no strategies should be made in a room which has an impact on your customer experience. And when I say no strategy should be made in a room which has an impact on customer experience, we are talking about opening up a new market where you want to have people to support multiple languages or maybe other languages in your team. I would suggest that you go to your super users, your customer champions, where your team has an existing reputation in those market. Try to understand, what is it. Try to understand what would be their expectation if something like this would open up, and then based on that start looking into, do you want to converge in that market, do you have the right talent, right bandwidth to be able to do that? If not, go back, prepare yourself to the for the expectation you want to deliver, and then take it up again. But my strong recommendation would be, speak to the people who are going to be on the receiving end of this.
Thanks again. I hope that answered your question, Kate, even though it's not 100% related to what you've mentioned here. But yeah, I suppose any questions that is CS related are welcome here, right?
Yep.
Cool. We got David got a follow-up questions here. Impact story slide. If you could go back there again, do you uniformly create them after every go live or encourage advocacy?
uh, yes. So one thing is, from the time when we experimented, I think that was like at least 1.5 or 2 years ago, when we started focusing on more value-based onboarding journey, where the conversation used to be aligned absolutely on the side of how from the start or from the beginning of that kickoff conversation we are delivering, or we are talking about the value and whatnot. From that time onwards, we have started creating this onboarding journey in a very uniform fashion, where for every go lives now we have specific agenda and specific value propositions that are primarily defined. We don't get into advocacy piece. Advocacy is a byproduct of the effort which we are putting in. We sort of rely on the advocacy side based on what is the state of the customer at one point in time. If we see that the customer is not just happy but on a delighted stage, we sort of go and talk about it. uh, Majorly this happens at the go live, like whenever a customer has gone live, it has seen a good experience overall, and obviously at the end of go live there's a stage where we do validation of value, and all of that has happened. Now both of us, like us and the customer, are in agreement that something has which was promised has been delivered. We do speak about advocacy as well at that stage.
Thank you again. Thank you for the answer. And David put up the questions. We might have time for maybe one or two more questions. I'll give you people more time to put on it. In the meanwhile, if you have one more tips to share with the whole community, what would that be, Krishna?
Sure. I would go back to one of the slides where we spoke about research.
Mm-hmm.
I want to sort of re-emphasize on how important it is for you to understand the person you're talking about. We have there's a common talk in the industry that you need to understand the persona. I feel that beyond persona, you need to understand the person, right? At times, no matter what you say, it will not resonate if the person thinks that it's using your software or using your service is just an additional burden for them and not necessarily helping them as an individual. I'll give you one example. I was helping an organization design their referral benefits, and all the benefits the team came up to me with was, we'll give 10% discount on the invoice, we'll give 10% discount on this, we'll give 6-month extension to the contract and whatnot. My counter to that was, hey, it's not the organization who's referring you, it's the person who is happy with what you have done, is happy with what impact which you have or your product has created on their day-to-day job, and is now delighted to speak to other, their peers in the industry about. So not just focus on giving out referrals to the organization, referral benefits to the organization, but focus on reward the person's time and effort who is doing it for you. Just one example, but it's a good takeaway overall. Like, you are
Yep,
working with humans, make sure that you treat them like one.
exactly. I think that's really one important takeaway.
Yeah.
It's always good to have that human touch on every step, I suppose.
Right.
Yep. I guess I need to wrap up things here. Thank you, Krishna, again for your contribution and your presentation, and thank you all for tuning in live for this last session and throughout the Customer Success Festival APAC 2022. Thank you, everyone. I'll look forward to meeting all of you soon in future. Yeah, thanks, Minley. It's been wonderful 2 days. Yes, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a nice day and have a lovely weekend ahead.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye bye. Thanks all.